Hi, this is Professor Guyad with Middlesex College, and in today's lecture, we're going to be talking about I/O, input-output. Input-output is very important in Java and all programming languages where you can essentially write to a file from within your IDE, your integrated development environment, whether it be Eclipse or Visual Studio Code, IntelliJ, NetBeans. And usually the data that you write to a file is to a text file, a .txt. Of course, you can write to other file types with other file extensions, but for the purposes of our lecture today, we're going to be writing and reading from a text file. So we're going to share, I'm going to share my screen right now. As you can see, I have a class called write to file, and we're importing the file class, which is part of the IO library, input output, the print writer class, which writes to output, that outputs or prints to a file, also part of the IO class, and the familiar scanner class, which is going to accept user input that we can write to a file on our machine. This first line of code here is just kind of like getting us oriented in our machine. It gives us a path to knowing where we are located in our machine, where the IDE is located. And then we use a try catch because there can always be some input output issue that we would want to catch to prevent from crashing our code. Because there are multiple input output exception types. So we want to be sure to use a try catch. So here we instantiate a file object using the new keyword, and we're gonna look, we have our path to the file, the text file .txt that we're going to write to. And I just simply called it write to me .txt. Then here we instantiate our print writer object, which essentially takes the file object as a parameter when it's instantiated, and it allows us to write output to the text file. The next line, we have a Boolean that is going to keep our while loop running because we don't know when the user is going to want to stop writing to the external file. So we create a Boolean that's going to control our while loop, our indefinite loop, right? Because we don't know, again, how many lines of text the user is going to want to write. And then we instantiate our scanner class to accept user input to write to the file. So I have this while loop that runs based on the still writing Boolean, and I prompt the user type something or type, triple $ to quit. Then we accept input from the user using scanner.nextLine. And then we write this is the key line right here, right? We're writing the input from the user to the output to the text file. And then if the user types in that triple equal sign, we're just going to break out of this while loop and we're going to end our writing. And remember always to close your output and scanner objects so that nothing wonky occurs. And if any input output exception happens, we have our general exception class here that's going to catch any exception were it to occur. And it's going to just print the message associated with it. And we're going to know when we're finished with the while loop with what's within the finally clause, which is writing completed. So pretty basic writing to file class, but it is important to note all the different aspects of it, right? Even though there's not a lot of code, it's important to know what each line of code is doing. So let's go ahead and write this. Let's go ahead and run this, sorry. And then let me write, hello, my name is Paul. How are you? What's going on? And then I'm going to do the triple $ to end the writing completed. Now I go to my desktop to see my write to me text file. I open it up and it's exactly what I would expect. This is what I wrote in the IDE in Eclipse in this instance. Great. So writing to a file is working. Let's read from a file now. So reading from a file, we're going to declare another file object, the same thing that we did in the writing to file class. And because I want what I wrote, all of this. My name is Paul. How are you? What's going on? To show up in this output area, this console area, without all of this other gunk, in here. I just wanted to show what I wrote to the file. I have my scanner class, but guess what? This time it's not, the argument inside of it is not system.in, which refers to user input. It's actually file. So it's taking in the file into the scanner. So that's a major difference that you'll want to note. Then we use a while loop again because we don't know, again, how long the file is. So we use input dot has next. So as long as there's a next line, as long as this is true, we're going to keep reading from the file. And then we have our line is input dot next line, and then we print that line to our console, and then we close the input. So yeah, pretty simple, but there were a couple of like minor tweaks that we had to make that are worth noting to get this properly running. So when I run read from file, I should see exactly what I wrote, what I saw in the file and what I wrote previously. So when I run this, I do see that. I see, hello, my name is Paul, how are you, what's going on? And then the $$ to end the file. And let's see what happens if we don't have this throws file not found exception. Yeah, so the scanner class does not like that because the scanner class is relying on this file being on my machine. And if it's not, then an exception is going to occur, right? So the scanner doesn't like that. And of course, we could use a try catch finally to wrap around this while loop to make sure, and that catches in file not found exception so that we don't have to throw it up here on the main method. But for now, we just did that way. That this main method will throw a file not found exception, which will crash our code if we do not do a try catch. So that's something to know because that may be something I put on an assignment. Wrapping this code around a try catch, within a try catch. Thank you for watching this video on input output, reading from a file, writing to a file, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.